Hey everyone, welcome to this meetup, and this is my first time. I'm very glad to see all of you here. Today I'll talk about generative AI, so building smarter apps and how to leverage Gen AI for real world impact. Right? We all have heard about Gen AI, and that's the talk of the town these days. So why not talk about it more and learn something useful? I'm Karnik. I manage solutions architect team at DigitalOcean. Uh, any of you who doesn't know about DO, DO is a cloud company. We focus on developers and small to medium scale businesses, so growing businesses. Now, on to our agenda. Before we dive deeper, uh, raise your hand if any of you used ChatGPT, Midjourney, or Copilot last week. Quite a few of you. Okay, that's good. Now keep your hand raised if you built something using AI last week. I see less, but that's good. That's what we like to see. Now, why I'm talking about that is, as you all know, we all hear the news about AI is here to take our jobs. Now, I don't believe so. Today, I saw a new AI agent being launched called Manus. It's MANUS. What it does is it's a deep research plus operator plus cloud computer combined. It does everything on its own. Of course, not perfect, but it's still much, much better than ChatGPT. However, if you know of constant failed attempts from Apple Intelligence or Amazon's uh, try to integrate AI into Alexa, you know that we are nowhere close for AI domination. So where are we, right? I strongly believe that while AI won't take our jobs, someone who knows how to leverage AI better than you and I, they might take our jobs. And that's why our topic on Gen AI. All right. So what is Gen AI, right? It is, as you can see, it's an artificial intelligence, one of the types that creates new content. Now, this new content could be anything. It could be text, image, audio, code, anything, right? Learning from vast amount of data. And what is this vast amount of data? We all know that as LLM. Now, there are many LLMs available out there from Anthropic, DeepSeek, OpenAI, Meta, and many others. Now, these models on their own are incredibly powerful. And I'm sure you have all chatted with OpenAI at the very least, or Anthropic's Claude. However, in the case you are chatting with this base model, when we talk about AI agents, that is something more than chatting with this base models, right? Uh, if you are looking to make that model a subject matter expert in a specific domain, let's say expert in your company's employee handbook or your company's code repos, then you will want to extend the power of these models by using them as the foundation in an AI agent. Just by using LLMs won't do it. Now, why do that? I always tell my team that the next revolution is how to be more efficient as a company or as an individual. And AI agents help with exactly that. Let's talk about AI agent now. So AI agent is basically a program. What is AI agent? I like to think of AI agents as LLMs with a job. Now, the LLM is really powerful, as we just heard, but it wasn't trained on your company's proprietary data. So if you want to use the GenAI model to answer your questions or to to complete any tasks that are specific for your company's domain of expertise, your product, your code, you will need to give that model a job. It's nothing but you hiring a new employee. So you write a job description, and in AI language, we call it agent instruction. And then next, you give it access to the data that is proprietary data of your company, just the same way how you give an employee access to your company's data. And voila, it'll do its magic to find answers or write code for you or the content you are looking for. Now, how does it actually do it? So let's talk about the architecture. As you can see on the screen, GenAI, and it could be any app, user writes a prompt. That prompt is sent to RAG model, which is retrieval model. Now, in that retrieval model, we have two types of structured as well as unstructured data, right? Structured data is nothing but your CRM system, like Salesforce, SAP, or relational database. And then there's also unstructured data. I like to call that long-term memory of your agent. What that is knowledge base that you feed to your generative AI model so that it remembers what exactly you want it to do. That is usually stored in vector database, OpenSearch, or any other vector databases. Now, combined user prompt combined with data collected from any of these databases, it gets sent to LLM, which is enriched prompt, and then LLM does its own magic and then converts it to a human readable format and then sends it back as a response to the user. Now, there are other architecture types as well. And here's another one, which also includes most common AI features. What are those? One is function routing, and then other is guardrails and safety filters. Now here in this, as you can see, user prompt is routed to LLM, and then LLM decides whether it needs to be sent to RAG model to collect the data or not. And then LLM also decides, based on your, of course, agent instruction, so your job description, it decides whether to send it to route your prompt to function routing or not. Now, what does function routing do? Function routing is nothing but an API query. So it is, in this case, it scrapes the website for you. And in other cases, it also could be calculator API. It also could be weather network API, and it collects that data, brings it back to LLM, and then that LLM will send it to guardrails. There, it ensures that secure, bias-free, and responsible output is sent based on your set of rules, and then final output is generated and sent to your user. Now, on this slide, I want to talk about the buzzwords, right? Let's get buzzword compliant for 2025. Whenever you hear about GenAI, you will always hear about AI agents versus agentic AI systems. Now, what is the difference? AI agents is, as you can see, it's a single agent versus when we talk about agentic AI, many agents are integrated together to do the job on your behalf completely. It is also autonomous. So again, AI agents are typically task-oriented and operate within fixed constraints. The limitations with AI agents is that, let's talk about ChatGPT, right? It works incrementally, meaning it predicts, you must have seen, it predicts one word and then another and so on and so forth. Compared to us humans, we like to think in terms of first draft, second draft iterations. And that's how we build anything, whether it's a content or code. Now, agentic AI is exactly that. You can build your system to act exactly as a human. It produces the first draft. You can add another agent that critiques that draft, then next agent that probably brings data from somewhere else, and then final agent based on that critique and the other set of data, it produces the final result. And that's going to be a lot more exciting place to be in. Now, just basic comparison, right? As we talked about, both AI agents are autonomous, but one is simple, the other is complex. One is typically single task focused, whereas the other one is multitask focused. One follows predefined rules, whereas the other one is self-directed and capable of adjusting goals, planning steps, or iterating autonomously. Now, in terms of use case, imagine AI-powered customer support agent, a chatbot that helps user reset password or check order status. Now, this agent follows predefined rules and responds based on a knowledge base. While it's useful, it remains reactive. Whereas compare that to agentic AI, instead of waiting for a ticket, for your customer to create a ticket, it proactively monitors system logs. It also identifies potential issues and even resolves them automatically. So if let's say a customer, as the example before, if let's say a customer is facing the same issue, login failure issues, system doesn't just reset the password, it analyzes the authentication patterns, reaches out to your security team probably if needed, flags them as a risk, also escalates if needed, and also reaches out to the customer, tells them that it fixed the issue that they were having, right? And again, agentic AI at scale is a dream everyone is working towards. Are we there yet? Probably not, but at a small scale, we are. And that's what everyone's striving for. Now, one example that most of you may have heard of, last year, this Devin thing became really popular. Now, how effective is that? I have read reviews, it's 4 out of 10, does the job, but only 4 times. So its success rate is 40%, but it is still better than nothing. It's again, as I said, it's extremely difficult, but could also be very rewarding for a company to have a successful AI system for mass. Just in their case, right? Developer built it once, and now they are just reaping money. It's as simple as that. You only have to build once, and that's it. Talk about another buzzwords: horizontal versus vertical. Now, as you can see from the graph itself, horizontal is for broad applications such as ChatGPT. Vertical is deep expertise, has narrow application. Usually for horizontal AI agents, I like to call them as Swiss Army knives. Versatile, but not always the best tool for a specific job. Whereas vertical AI agents are like specialized tools, like let's say a drill machine or something, right? That's highly effective in their specific domain, but limited outside of it. All right, again, the comparison here, as you can see, one is flexible, cost-effective, whereas the other one is has deep domain expertise, ensure compliance. And again, the vertical AI agents are mainly used in healthcare, finance, insurance companies where compliance is the highest requirement, as well as they need specific domain knowledge whenever they have an AI system. Future of AI, many businesses are shifting towards vertical AI agents to ensure, again, the same thing: domain expertise, compliance, and higher accuracy. All right. So what is it, right? I call it's a leap from software as a service to service as software. Now, in software as a service, users access predefined tools, whereas in service as software, which is built using agentic AI systems, AI-driven systems take over tasks, automate workflows, and make decisions autonomously. Now, instead of using software, businesses can now delegate entire processes to intelligent, adaptive AI systems. Other than, of course, AI, the shift is powered by autonomous and API-driven ecosystems. So these are, I would say, this makes software less of a tool and more of a proactive service that works for you, for your benefit. All right, so now that we know how GenAI works and what are the buzzwords, I'll take you to the demo. The demo is from one of the brilliant persons I know. His name is Jack. He is a solutions architect in my team. He lives in London. I would have invited him here, but he lives in London, so not feasible.
Retrieve live data, answer questions in real time. Whether you're a developer, data scientist, or just curious about AI, then this video is for you. I'm Jack Pierce, Solutions Architect at DigitalOcean. What if you could build an agent that connects to APIs and delivers real-time answers? With DigitalOcean's GenAI platform, it makes it easy to build AI agents that can fetch and process data dynamically without needing any complex infrastructure. So in this demo, I'll show you how to create an agent that pulls information from an API and intelligently responds to queries, giving you the power to build more interactive and informed AI solutions. So let's jump into it. There's a few different products we're going to use in this example. And what we'll do is we'll build an agent that can answer questions based on your own DigitalOcean account. Things like, what droplets do I have? What are the droplet IDs? What's their current status? Things like that. And we're going to retrieve that data from the DigitalOcean API in real time. So we're going to use the GenAI platform, which is a brand new product from DigitalOcean. It lets you build AI agents and they're production ready. With the GenAI platform, it's really easy to build an AI agent. You can implement RAG pipelines. You can upload your own knowledge base and have the agent answer questions on that knowledge base. You can also incorporate functions. So this is where block of code that you define can go out and perform a function and return data in real time to the agent. So that's what we're going to do today. So we're going to use the GenAI platform and we're going to use DigitalOcean's functions, which are, it's a serverless way of running code. It supports a number of different languages, so you can run Go, Node.js, PHP, or Python. We're going to use Python in this example. The first thing I want to do is prepare my function. So this is the piece of code that will be run, that the language model can call, and it can return results to the language model. So I'll come into functions in the control panel and click on create namespace. So we just need a new namespace. We'll select a data center that the function will run from. In this example, I'm just going to do Toronto, and we'll just create it with the default name that it gives it. So now what I want to do is develop this function from my local machine. We need the doctl command line tool to do this. So let's do doctl serverless connect. And it'll ask us which namespace do we want to connect to. I am going to select the namespace in Toronto that we just created. So that is number 1. And now I want to initialize a sample project that I can use and I can reference. So we can just run this command here, doctl serverless, and that'll initialize a example Python project. And we can then deploy it with this command. So let's open this example project in our code editor. So there's going to be some elements here that make up our project, and I'll include this sample in a repository so you can go ahead and copy it. So the first thing we want to do is modify our project file. Here we're just defining the Python runtime. We're setting a header so that the function can only be called using this header, secured this token in the header. We're going to define our DigitalOcean API token so that the function can access our account and get information about droplets. Next thing I'm going to do is create an environment files, and we're just going to put our DigitalOcean API token in here. And I'm just going to get rid of this hello world sample, and I'm going to replace it with API function. And our API function looks a bit like this. So it's just some Python code that will go and retrieve droplets from our account. This is just an example. In your instance, you would go ahead and write something for your own API, so retrieving data from your own API. I was using droplets as an easy example. If you're familiar with the DigitalOcean API, you'll recognize this. Let's save that. I'm also going to create a build script. The build script needs to look like this if you're using the Python 3.11 runtime. And the build script allows us to import our Python dependencies. So we will put our Python dependencies in this requirements text file here. There are certain Python libraries that are included that you won't need to build. Those are included in our documentation. So that's what the structure of the function needs to look like in order to be functional. And then we'll go ahead and deploy that. That will send the function to the cloud and build it so that it's ready to be used. And once that's finished, we can come back in and access our function from the web interface, and we can just run it from here and test that it's running without any kind of error. So that's running. You can see it's returned here some information about the droplets in my account. So that's excellent. And just to give you a more practical example of how this function works, if we were to call the function like this, so we'll just do a GET request against our function like this. Obviously, we're including our secret header ID so that the function can only be accessed if we have this ID. We'll see that the function returns information about our droplets. And then if we were to add a droplet ID parameter, it will return information just about that individual droplet. The next thing that I'm going to do is create an agent. So let's come into here and click on create agent. I will call it droplet agent. Agent instructions. This is like the system prompt that we're going to feed the language model and tell it how to act, what its purpose is. We have some examples in our documentation. So I haven't spent an awful lot of time on this prompt, I'll admit. It could definitely be better, but it works. I would advise what you can do is you can feed into a language model what you're trying to achieve and have it generate the prompt for you. I find that works quite well. But this one's just really simple. You're a helpful assistant that provides information about DigitalOcean customer accounts. I'm going to choose the Llama 3.370B model. I'm not going to attach a knowledge base. If I was building an agent that perhaps answered questions on some internal documentation that I had, I could upload that documentation and the agent would be able to reference it when it gives its answers, but we don't need to do that for now. So let's just create that agent. It's literally as simple as that. And then what I want to do is go to my agent playground. The agent playground is where I can mess around with the prompt. I can change the settings like the temperature, the max tokens, and the changes take effect instantly. So I don't have to wait for it to deploy. I can then ask my language model some questions and I can tweak my prompt or my temperature until I get the results that I need. So it's a really quick and fast way to iterate over getting the agent to where you want it. So I'm just going to go ahead and ask it, what droplets do I have in my account? Now, we're not expecting it to know. How would it know? So it's just going to give me instructions on how to get that information from my DigitalOcean account. Fine. So now what we need to do is link our function that we built earlier to our agent. So we'll come into the resources tab, and in here, this is where we can attach knowledge bases, guardrails. We can route to other agents if we have an agent that's designed for a specific task. So we're going to add a function route. I select my namespace and my function that I deployed earlier. For function instructions, I have this. So it's call this function when the user asks about their DigitalOcean droplets, virtual machines, instances, or servers. Use this function to retrieve information about one or more droplets in a DigitalOcean account. So we will call this function droplets. Now we need to define an input schema and an output schema. An input schema is, we have an example here. So if our function was retrieving information from the weather, the language model will then send these as parameters to our function. And if our function is configured to accept these parameters, it will be able to retrieve the data. So in this example, my input schema looks like this. So the main one here is droplet ID. So we're not saying that it's required, because if we don't specify it, our function will just retrieve the list of droplets in the account. But if we do, it will use the droplet ID parameter when it calls the function and retrieve information about that specific droplet. Then we define our output schema, and our output schema helps the language model understand the output that the function will return and how to interpret it and then use it in its response. So in this example, I've got droplets, it's a string, and the description is JSON string containing list of droplet information. So we'll go ahead and add that function to our agent. So that's now been added. So we go back to our playground and we ask the question again, what droplets do I have in my account? We'll see that this time the agent is able to answer, you have a total of 7 droplets in your account, and it lists them out for me. Excellent. So I want to know more information about this droplet here. Tell me more about droplet 42819747457. So there we go, and it's now returned all the information about this droplet. Droplet is named conductor console. It's off. It's in London. Here's its OS, tags that are applied, when it was created, and it's retrieving this information real time from the DigitalOcean API. I hope you found that useful today. This is just a very quick example of how you can build an agent and how it can retrieve information from an API in real time. It was super, super quick and easy to get this set up. I just think this is such a powerful platform. I will include all of my example code in a Git repository, and I'll link that so that you can use it as a reference if you want to give this a go. Thank you very much.
All right. So I hope you all liked that demo. And if you did, give that gentleman a round of applause. Thank you. I can't see you, but I'll tell him tomorrow. All right. Now let's talk about use cases, right? He went over one of the advanced use case, which is real-time data assistant. However, there are many other use cases. It can basically enhance any application or process. And as you can see on the screen, we have built HR knowledge assistant. Now it could be any knowledge assistant for any domain, recommendations engine for personalized product and content recommendations, such as what you see on Instagram, Facebook, Amazon, everywhere. And then classification engine, also code copilot. We also have Kubernetes YAML guide. That one was specifically built for our support team who works on Kubernetes product day in, day out. They have to answer customers' queries and also troubleshoot problems in Kubernetes. And so we built this guide for them. This agent helps them every time they have any issues. Also document analysis, which is one of the most simplest use case. But as you know, there are many ways to incorporate GenAI. Now, my team and I are always on the lookout for next best use case that our customers or any of us can use. And many of these use cases are being used in production, right? However, I must say, starting with GenAI is easy, but scaling is 100x more difficult. And that's what we all need to keep in mind, because there are very known problems like hallucination and other things. So those challenges come in the picture when you start scaling with your AI model. Now to go over what DO offers in our GenAI platform, right? It's all-in-one solution that simplifies the creation, customization, as well as deployment of AI agents. As you saw in Jack's demo, we have agent playground. We also have agent routing. Now, agent routing specifically is something like, let's say you want to build a marketing draft and you have one parent agent and it has child agents with different tasks. One collects the data, other writes the draft, another critiques the draft, another does something else, another feeds your brand logic or brand voice, and so on. And then guardrails. Now, guardrails is very, very important, however, most ignored feature in AI models. Why I say that is, give you an example. Someone asked Amazon chatbot, or I shouldn't say chatbot, chat service, that are you a human or a bot? It instantly replied, I am a human. And then humans are creative. That fella asked, next question, can you please write me a Python script? And it did that within 2 seconds. And of course, humans are not that capable. So it was found that it was a bot. And so guardrails are important. And you don't want to miss that. Now, another thing is RAG, as we all saw. Also, we have pre-trained AI models to give users a head start so that they can simply use that, test it in Playground, and then go about building something that's useful for their company. Now, what's upcoming? We recently launched web scraping, and then next is OpenAI integration, as well as agent versioning and agent insights. OpenAI integration mainly because we always prefer to use multiple LLMs in our agentic AI system so that, as we all know, Anthropic's Claude Sonnet is best for coding, whereas DeepSeek is best at thinking. And there are multiple benefits of using different LLMs for different tasks. And that's about everything. Thank you so much, everyone, for your attention today. And I'm really excited to see what you all build. Also, reach out if you have any questions. My team can help you in your building journey. Any questions you have about DO, anything in general about GenAI or GPUs. Also, as a closing remark, I'll again say AI isn't here to replace us, it's simply here to amplify us. So, build something, tag me on LinkedIn, and please share it with me.
And I'm just gonna kind of go with the flow. I'm not a professional speaker. I don't get paid by NX. I just love NX as a tool. And everywhere I come to consult, I try to get people on board and go with Monorepo style development. And usually I see the biggest struggles at the teams is as the code base. What's that calling? Sorry, 1 second. Let me put it in. So we'll talk about scaling and managing code effectively with Monorepos. Because usually when the team grows, and so does the complexity of the code base, multiple repositories can lead to duplicated logic, versioning headaches, and dependency chaos. At some point, moving to a monorepo becomes the natural progression and simplifies collaboration and keeps everything in sync. But even in a monorepo, teams need clear architectural decisions to stay organized, especially when working with micro-frontends, shared services, and reusable component libraries. This specific presentation is going to be having a lot of Angular framework code. Do I have any Angular developers? Awesome. Okay, at least 2. Last time it was none. So thank you for coming. I've worked at some of the clients, and I worked for them on 3 different projects with 3 different teams. And because they were all in different repositories, I had to rewrite the same code that I wrote somewhere else again and again and again. So what I do now, knowing that I might come back to a client, what I do now, I actually write a blog post with similar code that I created at my customer, but obviously I modify, I don't steal it. And then I save it to my GitHub. And then I talk about the code that I did. So that's kind of helps me, but long term, it's a struggle to share code within our organization. So this is why this talk. So let me just introduce myself. I've been a full stack developer for over 25 years. I specialize in Angular, and I also specialize in having lots of children. I have 5 of them. I've been a UI developer for the past 11 years, and I spend about 75% of my time writing enterprise applications on the UI front. Angular, I like it because of the great community. There are lots of big companies that use Angular to write enterprise software. I haven't had to switch frameworks in the past 11 years, and but I can easily pick up React, or I can do just vanilla JS. Also, thank you for raising your hands for my Angular developers. How about React? Do I have React people? Lots of React people. Okay, great. Everybody else, thank you for coming. That's just how it goes. So also I want to speak quickly about presenting why I do this. Like I said, I became NX champion by accident. I presented at an Angular conference one year, and I met owners of this company, and I started using it. And one time I had an issue, and the CEO actually got on the call with me and helped me figure out some issue that I had with setting up an X. And I was just so impressed by their customer support that I started giving these little talks. Last time I spoke about using NX for a small repository, like writing an Angular application and actually starting up without having a big code base with a monorepo style code. And but I want to encourage everybody to speak at meetups like this, and it helps you kind of organize your thoughts. You do have to give some structure to what you're talking about, even though like you're doing it every day. But to have a talk, you kind of have to spend a lot of time running it by ChatGPT or whatever AI you use. That's what I do. I'm not gonna lie. So it's good for your career growth. It's also builds a community around you. I've been doing consulting for about 16 years, and I haven't had any issues finding my next contract. So when it's over, it's not over for me. I can find my next contract. So I'm just saying, do that for your career. It's a good trick. Obviously, you have to know how to code too. So what we're going to learn today is why scaling monorepos matter, how NX optimizes monorepos, best practices for structuring libraries. NX actually has recommendation for not just having apps, but also creating libraries, and I'm going to talk about that. Also, I will touch upon how NX boosts CI/CD efficiency. We'll do a live coding demo. I actually practiced it at home one time. So if I bomb it, I have a stash. I can just pull it out like magically. And some key takeaways. Hopefully we'll have some questions. Okay, so why is scaling monorepo matters? One of the challenges of managing a growing code base is increased complexity. And increased complexity, as projects grow, dependency become really hard to manage. For example, I've seen companies that create artifacts of NPM of their own company, but the versioning and complexities of managing that is really, really high. Slow builds and test times. Running all the tests and builds for every change slows down CI/CD, and NX helps with that. Code ownership and collaboration issues. Without clear boundaries, teams can step on each other's work. So NX with monorepo coding style, it actually helps you set clear boundaries within each team. Party dependency management keeps track of shared libraries and avoiding version conflicts. Actually, having one monorepo for your company gives you an ability to keep everybody on the same version of the framework. This is one of the biggest challenges is if you have multiple projects within your company, everybody's on a different Angular version. Angular goes out of support within 2 versions, and then you have to upgrade. I'm sure React has some similar issues and other frameworks as well. One of my favorite is onboarding of the new developers. With NX, the understanding and the structure of a large monorepo is really easy. It could be really overwhelming when you come in and you have a monorepo, but you're not using NX. You kind of have to go inside your code to figure out which app is referencing which library, and you need somebody who've done this before, or you just need time and some tasks assigned to you for you to understand this. Lack of visibility. Without proper tooling, tracking dependencies and affected errors is really difficult. For example, I know some people have monorepo style programming with Angular, because you have an ability of creating workspace of Angular apps and libraries. It's very difficult to just validate that the change that you just introduced is not going to affect all of the other apps and libraries. With NX, that issue is solved. Performance bottlenecks. Inefficient workflows can lead to wasted time and resources. And I wanted to speak about the 3 teams, but I already did that. So next slide. So NX isn't just about keeping everything in one place. It's about optimizing how teams work together. NX Graph is my favorite part of NX, but NX is just so much more than that. It's a visualizing dependencies tool that provides clear view of how projects and libraries are connected. It's great for architectural overview and validation, and also component planning. So what I've done in the past, when user story is created, we, as a team of developers, talk about how we're going to develop that feature with component planning. And understanding the architecture of your project by looking at an NX graph, you can actually communicate with your team during that planning. You can say which library is going to be affected, where component is going to go, where your code is going to go, state management or data access, and so forth. And that's where the module architecture helps. It encourages breaking down the large applications into reusable and maintainable libraries. The affected commands is one of the biggest features in NX. It runs tests and builds only for changed part of the code base, improving CI/CD. You can actually use those commands in your CI/CD pipeline. And the smart caching, it actually avoids redundant work or reusing results from previous run. On your local machine, you will have cached version of the previous build or test or whatever command you ran. And every time you change something and you run the affected command, it looks at your cache, and you can only, for example, build or lint or test the code that was affected by your change. Enforce boundaries actually defines clear module scope, reducing unintended dependencies, improving collaboration. With tagging and constraints within NX, allows you to restrict which libraries can interact with each other. This gives you really clean architecture because, if you're using VS Code like me, you know that you can just do command space and it opens up a bubble and you can import whatever you're using, and it could just import from any library or any app. You don't want to do that. With NX, you can actually set up the boundaries where you're going to get a lint error and it's not going to compile, it's not going to test, you won't be able to push it if you have some hooks in place. Parallel execution speeds up builds and tests by running tests concurrently. You can actually do that on your local machine as well as on your build server. So with great power comes a lot of responsibility. This is it is a tool that is very, very flexible. But with this tool, you can set up best practices and establish a really good, clean code with this NX Monorepo style of development. The building blocks of the applications within NX are application layer. It contains actual deployable app. You can put just a whole app inside your application layer. You don't have to do libraries, but it's highly encouraged because you're not going to get any of the affected commands working for you because there's going to be nothing to cache. It's just going to rebuild and test everything once. The feature libraries layer is something that contains your domain-specific features. I'm going to show you what libraries I prefer to have and create. Shared libraries, I don't create shared libraries unless I really have to, because if you have one application and some features and your features don't really have anything shared, I'm not going to create it until I'm actually sharing some pipe or some component or something. So that is best practice, but everybody does whatever they want. They can run wild. So this is a slide about best practices for structuring libraries, and you can see that the application layer has 2 apps. Feature libraries also has 2 libraries for feature number 1 and feature number 2. And the shared libraries, you can have your UI components there, you can have your data access. Sometimes you need to separate data access, like your services that call your UIs and your state management stuff, into separate library. That's very common because, for example, if your features are going to be calling some task to load some data that belongs to a data access layer from a different feature, you're able to share between the feature library layer. I like to think about as a container presenter pattern, just like in component planning, you have a container component which acts as an orchestrator. It handles the state, makes all the API calls, and passes data to the presenter component. Then the presenter component focuses purely on rendering your UI and user interactions. Keeps it really clean, nicely to. It's easy to test. So if you think about this pattern and apply it to NX, your apps actually serve as a container. It delegates pretty much everything to the libraries, but the libraries, they're kind of a presenter, but they're not, because there is going to be your business logic there. It's going to be the data access, state management, and so forth. But this approach ensures scalability, reusability, clear separation of responsibilities and concerns, and different teams don't have to step on each other's toes, because you want to give them ability to share each other's stuff, but making sure that don't actually clash with each other. And that's the boundaries actually should be set up by each team individually. If they don't want people to touch their code and share their libraries, they can prevent other people from doing that. And I just want to mention that Google does NX monorepo style. All of their apps are all in one huge repository. I spoke to people who worked at Google, and people who created NX, actually ex-Googlers. And they brought this tool from, they created this big company out of working from Google in this type of programming style. So how NX boosts CI/CD efficiency? With the smart optimization, the caching, the affected tests, the affected builds, they all come into play, and it significantly boosts your CI/CD. The smart caching is when NX stores the result of the previous tasks and reuses them when the inputs haven't, if they haven't changed the inputs, then it reduces the build time. The affected tests, I already kind of spoke about tests and builds. Similarly, it looks at the hashes inside the repository or on a server. And if you are using distributed cache, then your team can all benefit from the previous build. So if you have a huge repository and you are using distributed cache, then everybody can just connect to it and grab all the hashes. They don't have to rebuild everything. So now we kind of covered all the key concepts, and it's time to see NX in action. I'm gonna do a live demo, like I promised. I'm gonna kind of walk through a little playground the repository that I created. It's not a real project, and we're just gonna show how it's. Let's see. Something else before. Actually, before I go to the demo, I want to say something, because as I was driving here, I was watching a quick video from NX people that they just introduced a cursor agent for their for their LLM, and it's now embedded into the extension of NX. So we're gonna try to play with it within the demo. I don't know if it's gonna work, but we're gonna try it. But it's supposedly it understands your code base, and it gives you like all of that like helper functions and everything. Because one of the biggest advantages of NX is the huge library of the plugins. And I wanted to share the screen. Here's the NX plugin registry. These are all of the plugins that have been created. It's all open source. You can create your own plugin. It's very easy to do. I'm actually looking into creating one. Hopefully I will get time to do it. There is, have anyone used Storybook? Storybook, you know what it is. It's a documentation site for your components. there's another player in town called Knapsack, and I wanted to see if we can create a plugin for NX for that company. We'll see if I get time to do it, but it's pretty easy to do. The wrapper for Angular, for example, it just contains all of the schematics that Angular does. So anything you would do with ng serve, ng build, you just do it with NX CLI. Okay, let's see. So we're gonna do a demo. Real quick. Let's see. My on the screen reader is here because I'm kind of dyslexic and everything else to deal with it. Let me see if I can. Okay. Open this code. Share it. I'm gonna stop sharing and reshare. Okay, here it is. Okay, so this repository is gonna be, there's gonna be a slide for GitHub repo for this. I already created NX repository for this. It has one app, as you can see. It also has end-to-end thing that you can do end-to-end with Playwright. Kind of comes out of the box. I just left it there for the demo. I already created 2 libraries. One is data access and one is feature. And I actually want to, if I ever add more applications, I want to have this structure. I want to have data access, then slash whatever my first app, then feature slash my first app, and then data access slash my second app, and so forth. So this one right now has the feature library, which has a component. And this component, and I actually created this repository using Angular 19, and it's all function-based. I try to avoid all of the classes. This one just has implementation using using functions. So this is the routes for this feature. I registered a feature state using NGRX for state management. And it lives inside my data access library, which is above over here. Can everybody see well? Please load up. Those in the back.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. Good. And so this feature library has the implementation of the app. Okay, it has the component that's going to be loaded on this path. There's no path on it because this is in the library and the actual route is registered in the app itself. And I'm going to show you here really quick. Here's the app component, and here are my routes, and it lazy loads this the routes that are registered in the library with this path right here. And it's actually going to do it lazy loaded. That's so if we do a build, let's see what kind of assets we get. Yeah, okay, so here it created a bunch of bundles. There's a lazy chunk file for the lazy loaded route. So our first step I wanted to show you is NX graph. So to run NX graph, we do So this is what comes up when you do an NX graph. It actually shows us all of the references within the app, the implicit reference to the end-to-end test application, and everything else is We have like different types of. So if you click on it, you can actually see where the reference to that library is, and you can explore each file this way. And it actually gives you a note that this is dynamically loaded because the routes are loaded lazily. This is why it's dynamic. This one does not have a little dotted line because this is static reference, and it also shows you all of the places where this library is accessed. And if we were to change something in the top level, what do you think is going to happen? We were going to talk about hatching. And then we're going to come back to that picture. I don't know how to share multiple things apparently. Okay. So we're here. I want to show you the folder. So here's the NX folder. You can see at the .nx, and this has the cache folder. This is where all of the hashes for the task that I already completed. I did the build, I did the test. I can actually run a test really quick just to see what is going to trigger, because it's going to show me a list. So we're going to do that really quick. Test. Okay, so it just did the top level. Okay, good. It has the reference, it has two references, right? It has the data access and it has the feature. So let's go ahead and change something inside our library. I'm going to quickly, how much time do I have? Because I was going to do something else. Let's add something here. I'm going to redo the task just to see what happens. But we're not going to do the test of the app. What we're going to show is right now is how we're going to do the effective. And in case I don't remember the actual thing, I'm going to come to my NX console, and I'm going to select affected, and there's a couple of different tests that I can choose from. And I want to do my test because on the CI/CD server, we're going to do probably test. We're going to probably rebuild everything, but test, we just want running tests that are being affected by my change. And I can just click that. And let's see what it's going to change. So remember, right? We changed something inside our models, which are in data access. So it actually ran tests for everything that was dependent on it. If I were to change something in the app, it's only going to run the app. So let's validate this. We're going to go on the app, and we're going to change. Let's see, change something in this. Space. Same thing. Okay, it's executing just one task. And then it ran all three. So we did the top level, right? Okay, so if you change something at the top, that's correct. So that's what we wanted to see. So now we want to do the same thing, only we'll do the library. Oh, okay, so I take this back. I forget how this works. So if you let's do the instead of data access, we're going to do the feature. Should skip the access. Okay, skip the access. So in this example, we changed the feature. The app is dependent on the feature, but feature depends on the access, and access did not run, which is good. That's what we wanted. So I want to show you really quick. If I were to add another app and how it's going to change the graph. We still have time, a few more minutes. Cool. You guys still want to do it? Okay. So let's do. It's going to be. So let's imagine we have a need of another team that's going to create like a training. Oh, I forgot to show you what this app looks like. Hold on a second. Let me run this first. Last thing I forgot to do. So actually, you can see the projects all listed here. You can see all the tasks that are associated with it. You can do it from here. If you're not familiar with the the terminal commands, you can just do it from here, and we're going to serve. Only sharing my one thing, so I have to stop again and share my. Okay, so we're going to go to our local host. Okay, so it just has two links, one for home, we're at home, and then another one for our component that's lazily loaded. Actually, if we opened inspect, we'll probably see how it's getting the data from some dummy database. Let's redo this. Let's go home. So it's getting some users. It actually has like a little delay, so it has a loading indicator. And actually loaded the second chunk, second time. It's okay. I'm not gonna worry too much about because it's like Angular specific stuff. I wanted to show you before we go to the next step. One of my favorite things about Angular is the Redux dev tool. So I made my state management is managed by NGRX, and you can see that it's initialized here. And the reason I love this is because I really like to see the path the user takes with just like replaying things. Like I can do add new employee here. I can see everything that's happened here. I can even probably replay it. I didn't reload anything, but that's the magic of Redux. So as you see, there is a load of HR data here happens. So I want to do a different app that also has this component inside its app. So let's say we have a new not a new feature, but a completely different product that company wants to create. It's to train people, like the same employees that we're just managing in the HR group. We're going to now train and provide them with some training tools. So we're asking our department to go ahead and create another app, reuse as much code as possible, because that's what we like that. We want just fast delivery. And I already have a command, but you can actually use, there's a generate UI that has a lot of different plugins that are available out of the box. If something is not here, you just need to install it. For React folks, it's not installed out of the box. I installed it, but I think I can even show you. Yeah, so they're all of the application, all the components, everything we have here as well. It's not installed out of the box, so you have to kind of go and get it. We are going to create another Angular app. Let's see, let's just double check. With dry run, then it's okay. So it's going to put everything in apps. There's going to be like a training app. Okay, good. So that's all it's gonna do. Should put everything inside second folder under apps, and now we have another. So what I want to do is I want to do the same thing that happened here. I want to grab this. I want to have the same links, only it's going to be not HR, it's going to be trained. So I'm just going to copy this over because I know I already did this here. It's going to work, and I know that out of the box, NX creates like these creates like this component. Also. Change this to training. Change this. This is going to be a new route. Training. Okay, so I know I need to have the routes. I don't have routes here. Yeah, let's do the routes really quick. Let's steal them from here too, just to save time. Okay. Have a do this. All right, so now our new app. I don't know if it's gonna work. Let's see. Let's try. No, I probably missed something, so let's just give it a try. Actually go into our next console. Let's see if our second app is here. So now we do have second app here. We can just do, let's see. Oh, okay, so it actually created another port for this app, and you can see that NX actually created this really cool thing I really love. They don't put all of the projects into the NX file anymore. I just love that because one of the biggest culprits is merging that huge Angular JSON file. Now you don't have to do that anymore because you have a separate project JSON file for each application and it just lives right inside the folder. So each team can just have their own. And I'm not sure where it adds the new port. Okay, so it's right here. So and NX when it created the new app, it actually figured that there's already port 4200 used, and I just added +1. And let's see, I'm gonna stop sharing again and share one more time. Okay, so this is now. This is probably not gonna work. You probably have an error. Probably did something. Yeah, I did not provide my state because remember I added indirect stuff, so go back. Super fast. So in order to use NGRX feature state, you first need to register the root state. Otherwise, it doesn't know what to do with the feature state. And it's registered. Let's see. Debugging.
That's not in app routes. It's the free one.
So here, so this is the config. This is what I need to add. So you see it's in HR, it's providing the store, it's creating the dev tools. I want to add this. Because the feature one, it lives in my feature library, lives in here. I'll show you that registration really quick. So on each route, I provide it right here. So this is fine, but it's not going to work if you don't register the root. You need to register the root.
Oh, I was meeting in app routes.
running somewhere. Stop sharing. Go to it's actually loading data. Thank God. Okay, good. That's right. So now we're just going to look at the NX graph, and I'm going to wrap. So let's do that first. Look at the graph. What does it look? Because we second app, kind of reusing the feature, but I really want people to, when they're creating the second app, to have their own feature library, their own data access, not related to the first app. And if they're sharing something, have a shared library, right? That's my train of thought for library setup. So now I'm going to stop sharing again, or maybe, you know what? I don't think I have to stop sharing. I think I can just run the NX graph from here, and you guys can see it. So, okay. Now we have another new dev coming in. Now we have two apps. Look at this. There's the app. We know they're all sharing this. He's gonna come in and share this. I'm gonna tell him no, don't share. This doesn't belong to you. Create your own feature library. If you are reusing something from the first feature library, put it in the shared. Have them both use that feature from two separate places, but from the shared library. This should be dedicated to AHR. Train should have its own feature. Anything that's shared goes into the shared space. Okay. I think this is it with that. So this is part of NX console, the extension that I was showing you. Make sure you play with this. This is brand new. It just finished. It's supposed to be super cool because it gives you Kate in the little chat bot to tell you what to do, what commands to use. This is the repo. So if you want to grab the code for using the latest and greatest Angular 19, how to register your NGRX state, feature state, how to use control flow as a part of components. You can see I'm using the control flow elements there. And I think this is it. And here's a little article for React devs. So if you're